Hey, how's it going? My name's Nick. Are you in consideration of buying the Sony A7 IV? Well, I just so happen to have it here, and I'm going to be doing a full intensive review of it in just a second. This is my first video reviewing gear like this, so if you enjoy this video, I'm going to be making a lot of them. I have the A7 III coming, the FX30, Black Magic, all of these cameras. I'm going to be doing lights, microphones, everything. Like, subscribe, please. It would mean a lot to me. So, let's get into it. So, this camera came out in 2021 for around $2,500 USD. And 3 years later, you can get it for about, I would say, around 2000. So it actually hasn't dropped that much, but it makes sense considering how popular and powerful this thing is. I mean, 3 years later, it's still finding itself on the top of every list of mirrorless cameras, even in 2024. But let's move on to talking about what actually matters, the specs. So this thing has a full frame sensor with about 33 megapixels, which is a huge jump from the predecessor, the Sony A7 III, which had about 25. And that 8 megapixels makes a huge difference when it comes to post and the editing of your photos. Now your files are going to be pretty huge if you're shooting an uncompressed RAW, about 40 to 60 megabytes, but you don't have to shoot in RAW. You have a bunch of options. You can shoot RAW and JPEG, or HEIF, which, if you don't know, that is high efficiency image file format, which is about the same quality photos as a JPEG image, but a much more compressed storage. So if you're going out on the street, you're doing street photography, or you're just having fun with your friends and you're not really worried about the overall image, like it doesn't have to be so perfect. Now, I prefer to shoot in RAW when I'm doing client work. I've already done a few shoots with this camera. I wanted to really, take it for a test drive, if you would, before I did a full review of it. The results speak for themselves. I mean, I'm coming from shooting with the Sony A6000, which I'm actually using to record this video on because I don't have my Black Magic on hand. I was in Lightroom and I was kind of shocked on how much I could zoom in and zoom. I was zooming in on the pupils of the photos I was taking, and I was barely losing. I could have cropped in like 500% and still gotten a pretty good photo. Now, the viewfinder is 3.68 million dots, which is a lot. That's like really good for one of them. You're usually looking at under 3 million for most other cameras. So looking through the viewfinder is like crystal clear, to me at least, coming from my older camera. Now the LCD screen, although it is awesome that it flips out like this, I'm not a real big fan of using it to actually see what my photo is going to look like. It's around 1 million dots, so if you're doing videography, I would really highly suggest investing in an external monitor, because I've missed focus a couple times looking at the little LCD screen. Something really cool that you can do with this camera, and I'll actually demonstrate it right now. Let me get a lens. There's actually an app called Monitor Plus that you can download on your smartphone that basically acts as a external monitor, and you could even do it wirelessly because this camera has a built-in Wi-Fi. But I'm actually seeing myself on my phone. I did that pretty fast. I didn't have to do any troubleshooting. I'm getting a really high quality image from the camera on my phone, way higher than what you see on the LCD screen. I'll insert a clip right now. I actually used this feature to AC on a recent short film I was doing because we were using this as our A cam. And if you're on a tight budget, it's an awesome feature to have. I haven't really had many issues with it disconnecting. I read the reviews on the app and a lot of people said it disconnected a lot, but I was going across the room from the camera and I still had the image pulled up. Some cool things you can do with it is you can false color. You can basically do everything that a monitor can do from this little app. You can do focus peaking. I believe you can even choose your focus as long as you have an autofocus lens on. You can actually do the tracking on it. So awesome. And I don't know, maybe this has been a thing for you guys, but for me, coming from my dinky old 14-year-old camera, this is mind-blowing. You can even record from the camera. This was especially useful. I was just doing the short film, and I had the camera on the gimbal. So, you know, if you've ever used a camera on a gimbal before, unless you have it wired, pressing record is pretty difficult, especially when you're kind of tucked into a certain spot. So I had the person with the monitor press record, and it would record. It really is a cool option, and you can get a phone mount and put it right on top of the camera for running gun shoots. But enough geeking out about that. Let's talk about some more specs. This camera can record video at 422 10-bit internally, 4K 30, and it can go up to 4K 60, which is something that it has over its predecessor, the A7 III. The only downside is that you do get a cropped sensor when you do that, which kind of ruins it for me, considering you're also losing quality. A big thing that was implemented in this camera that not even the 3 had was the S-Cinetone, or the Sony Cinetone picture profile. You can find this on the camera if you go to Picture Profiles and you go to Picture Profile 11. As opposed to S-Log 3, which a lot of people film on because of the accessibility to change all of the colors, this is a more straight out of the camera ready color profile, which basically means that out of the camera you're getting really good skin tones, you're getting really vibrant colors, and it's supposed to be a really awesome cinematic look. For videos like this, the saving on time, color grading, and just getting a nice look out of the camera is awesome. Now I want to move into my favorite part about this camera, which is the build quality. I mean, this thing is a beast. It makes my dinky little A6000 look like a kid's toy. This thing boasts dual card slots, one being a CF Express Type A and the other just being an SD slot, which is awesome if you're in the professional line and you need a backup of all of your footage or photos. And it has a full-size HDMI port, which is just awesome for having an external monitor, which, by the way, you can record 4K ProRes onto. I just found that out. Now, I've held a lot of Sony cameras in my hands over the years, and I can with 100% certainty say that this is the most comfortable one to hold. The front grip sticks out really far, and when I hold it in my hands, it has a little divot for my middle finger, and it just feels so comfortable. I've had a lot of issues with the other smaller Sony cameras with actually how small it is. Even the one recording this video, you kind of gotta like do something like this with your hands, while with this one you get to fully hold it. It really feels good, just the tactile senses of it. Something that I figured out about this camera while being in the field with it is it has a really good battery life. I know it uses the same battery as the A7 III, but this thing really does last. On the shoot that I mentioned before, this was our A cam and our B cam was a A6400, and the 6400 had gone through 2 batteries before this one had gone through 1. I think I was still on something like 18% by the time he got through the second battery. Another thing that I really like about this camera, and it's just a little thing, is the placement of the record button. Now, this being a hybrid camera, you want the access of the record button to be just as accessible to the shutter button, and this camera does that perfectly. Thanks to the really big grip, you get room to just place the record button here. And if you haven't used other Sony cameras, even the A7 III has this issue. They had the record button on this little divot in the side right here, and it actually, even when I was going to record this video, I had to try to press the button about 4 times with my fingernail on my thumb just to get it recording. Now, it surprised me that it took them so long to put the record button here. I mean, I don't know what it is. It couldn't have been that hard to do, considering how inconvenient it was. I'm sure they've gotten a lot of complaints about it, but I'm glad they finally did something about it. I mean, even the A7 III still has it on the side. And on top of that, it has 4 mappable buttons, which feel really good to click. I know this is another like niche thing, but trust me, just makes the experience of using the camera so much better. Let me talk about autofocus now. The autofocus on this camera is great, as well as the internal stabilization. There is something that you can do with the 5-axis stabilization. This camera actually records internal gyro data, so you can take it into their program and actually stabilize it in post with that data. Now you do get a crop in of something like 1.1, 1.2 times, I think. Don't take my word on that. I don't remember the exact number, but from what I've seen from it, it does work very well. Now, it is an extra step to take before you use your videos, and if you have a lot of videos, probably takes a while. I would just invest in a gimbal, especially with this camera. Now, back to the autofocus. I've had my chance to do a little bit of video photo shooting on this camera, and I'll tell you, the autofocus is lightning quick. I love the feature that you can actually track eyes, and this camera does remember faces as well. I've had settings where I've tracked someone's eye or face, and they've walked behind something, and there was other people in the frame, and they came back out, and it still tracked their face. It's really something to admire. Now, with all of that, it is time to ask the most important question: is this the right camera for you? I can't really answer the question for you specifically, but I can point you in the right direction. Now, this is a camera for the hybrid shooter, and what do I mean by that? At least in my experience, I highly lean into the photography, but I wanted a camera that can do that on a professional level, but can also keep up with high quality video when I needed it. Straight out the bat, if you want to be making short films or movies, yes, you can do it on this camera, but if that is solely what your intent is with a camera, I would look at maybe some more video-centric cameras, such as the FX line. The FX30 is comparable in price to this camera, it's even cheaper actually, or maybe something like a Canon. And if you're looking for solely photography and you can care less about video, this does do the job. I will tell you, in a professional setting where you need fast autofocus, you need really good light capturing, and a lot of megapixels, this does it. If you're really looking for something, you can get something maybe like the A7R series, which is, I believe they have more megapixels and they're just like higher resolution. That's what the R stands for, resolution. And if you're looking for video, I would maybe go with the S series. But if you're a hybrid shooter that is looking for a combo camera that can do it all and at very professional levels, this is the camera for you. Guys, this is my first video. Please let me know if you made the choice of the A7, what camera you maybe have went with instead, or what you're looking at. And please subscribe and like and leave a comment. I would really appreciate it. I'm going to be making a couple more of these videos. I have the FX30 lined up, the A7 III, the Blackmagic, as I said before. That has been my A7IV review. Please let me know if I missed anything, and I will see you guys next time.